All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Readers. So we are continuing our FANG and blue chip stock technical analysis videos. This will be Apple and Netflix. Excuse me about that. Real quick, if you can please like or subscribe, it really helps with the YouTube algorithms and stuff. Nonetheless, I sincerely appreciate your time. So let's get into it. What are we going to do today? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how things are shaping up. We have our 5 moving averages. These horizontal support and resistance lines I do manually draw myself. And then when we're done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. So Apple is a little bit of an outlier, and it's actually a good one, right? So if you look at most of the FANG stocks, everyone actually does have a nice gap up from Wednesday to Thursday, okay? And then the Thursday to Friday movement is, for the most part, a downward movement, okay? Which one was it? Amazon was the worst. It definitely gapped down and almost took away the entire gap up. Meta dropped a little bit. I think the rest drop a little bit. I'll be honest, we'll look at them as we get closer, but Apple goes up, all right? Apple goes from breaking it to bouncing off the 200 literally back to back, and it's relatively interesting. I'm not going to lie to you. Generally, when you break a line, especially if you gap over it, you kind of continue up. You don't drop down and then also go back up. It says a lot to me, in all honesty, okay? Again, you can see the MACD is actually kind of continuing up. Most of the other ones are starting to curve a little bit. This is still relatively horizontal, so there's not too much to talk about there. But yeah, volume kept going up. Again, most of them, volume did drop on Friday. So I don't know if it just means Apple had the best earnings. Again, I don't really look at news or earnings, right? I'm just here for the lines. And the fact that Apple is reacting the best to that 200 break is pretty interesting. The fact that it's the only one that really went significantly higher, let alone higher, is also pretty interesting. You know what I mean? So again, just some thoughts from what I'm seeing, right? But yeah, interesting that this one went up for sure, for sure. Zooming out again, this had a bit of a downward that we were trying to fill, and you can see it pretty much does fill really well right there, right? From there, it looks like getting over this was pretty much that earnings, right? Because again, as it gets horizontal, it's a little harder to break that noise. When it's just like that, that's kind of what you expect, right? So yeah, overall, pretty good technicals on Apple. And real quick, look at the 8 moving average do its job. Bounce right there, kind of a bounce right there, bounce right there, take off, right? So you gotta love the 8 moving average. Apple, though, again, this might be the strongest daily chart out of all of them. So look at this, okay? This is a monstrous weekly chart right here. We broke the 100 and the 50 on a single candle, okay? Generally, I say if you're going to break one line, I need good confirmation, and that's definitely what that was. If you're going to break one line, I need good confirmation. That's definitely what that was. If you're going to break 2 lines, I need monster confirmation, right? So I really need to get up here, right? And look, it looks like we've gotten out of this and are starting to kind of fill that, right? So there's some reason to believe we might be coming to 170 if for real this weekly keeps going like it does, right? And again, I'm surprised that it didn't drop when NASDAQ hit that resistance of where it did, right? But yeah, Apple just kept going. And again, I think it might be some news related if I had to guess. But yeah, beautiful golden cross right there, right? The lower moving average crossing above the big one. It looks like our lowest one wants to cross above the biggest one. That's like the goldenest cross. I know that's not a word, but you get it, right? So yeah, Apple is looking good. And like I said, this is the best of the daily charts. What I care about on Monday is 2 things, okay? Do not lose more than 50% candle. Stay above 150, 150. I think that's a good number to try to stay over. Do not come lower than that. Obviously, continue up. And look, I want my volume to keep going up. The last thing I want is volume to drop like 50%, right? So we've had a nice increase every day in volume. Let's keep doing it, or at least keep it relative. Don't give me a down, right? So that's definitely what I'm looking for at the open. But yeah, again, Apple, strongest one of the FANGs so far, kind of by a lot. Netflix, let's see how Netflix holds up. Okay, interesting. So look, like I said, most of the fangs definitely dropped on the Friday, right? This one actually didn't do much of a gap up either, right? So this one was a little bit calmer, but let's be honest, okay? This thing did its job, all right? I'm zooming out a lot because look, we've been hunting this, and I mean, it's literally done almost the entire fill, right? So you gotta love these gaps. I'm telling you, I don't know if you can like hear the smile as I'm looking and talking about these, but a gap and then red candles are like my favorite thing to see, right? And I mean, once we broke this 200, we came back down to retest it and then took off, right? And that's actually what I was talking about on a couple of the other fangs that just broke the 200, right? Generally, if you're going to break the 200, what I care is if you can bounce off the 8 and keep going, or you better bounce on the 200 and go back, right? Obviously, this goes a little lower, but you know, you never lose the 200, right? So kind of talking about zoomed out. But look, where are we now? This is why I love the 8 moving average. I love this thing so much. When it's above it, it's good. When it's below it, it's bad. When it's above it, it's good, okay? And I know that looks bad, but remember, I care about confirmation, right? That's still technically over the line. That's the first one under the line. I need the second one under the line to actually fear it. Otherwise, it's just going to do this, right? It's going to, again, you lose it once right here. This one kind of maybe fakes someone out right here, right? I will say it looks like the high gets a little higher, right? So this closes at 353. This one closes, oh wow, it was by cents. This one closed at 353.11. This one closed at 86, right? But nonetheless, it at least got to go a little higher versus continuing dropping, and then again it comes back. But I'm telling you, this 8 moving average is a beautiful, beautiful tool. There are times when, like I said, it gets a little tricky to kind of figure it out, but if things are bullish, if you're well over all the lines, right, like this thing is, I mean, I'm telling you, the eight's a beautiful thing for sure, for sure. So where are we now? Look, it looked like we were going to lose it. We're at least technically back over it, which is good, right? But again, all of the fangs are kind of doing this like curve down. This by no means was as drastic, and obviously we just saw Apple actually went up, right? So I would say Netflix is kind of in the middle between Meta, Amazon, Apple, and Netflix. I still haven't seen Google. That'll be the next video, right? But it seems like it might want to be coming down to the 20 if I had to guess. I think it's kind of done this little bounce, it's done this little bounce, but it wasn't able to get back over that peak. I think if it got over that peak, I would say, okay, it was a good bounce that wants to go up. It bounced, couldn't get as high as it needed to, wanted to, right? But didn't. I think it might need to come down a little bit. I will say though, the RSI is not too high. So if this thing opens up, I would put my alert right here. You know, let's just do it. Let's just do it together. I'm going to put my alert right there. Again, an alert is not an immediate buy. It's just a, hey, come check out the charts and see if it's worth it, right? But if we can get over that, yeah, I think we'll continue up, right? RSI is still low enough to where it can definitely go up. This MACD is in the positive, which is good, but I mean, it's so close to the zero line. I wish this thing was like 150, not 15, right? I never talk about the MACD number, but more positive is better than zero or any negatives, right? And then look, volume's definitely kind of cooled off, right? So let's get a good amount of volume. Let's bounce back up and let's do it. But again, I feel like this might be coming down. But look, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, right? Like NASDAQ needs to cool off a little bit. I think this is going to follow NASDAQ just a bit. And again, I don't see it being like a worrisome thing. Coming to the weekly, look, this is a really nice weekly, right? We're not over all the lines. Oh man, look at that. So that's going to be hard to get over, all right? It's too soon, sorry. But I say it often, right? It's hard to get over a single line. It's that much harder to get over that cluster, right? So I could see 405 truly being the peak of this, but again, look at that. On the weekly, we pretty much filled the entire thing. Again, it's a beautiful thing to see, right? But yeah, there were some beautiful profits here to be made, right? I mean, really since July, which is kind of funny, right? But yeah, even this last little bit had a good little move here, right? So can't be too sad if this cools down a bit, but yeah, overall, it's still pretty bullish. Just, you know, it just kind of seems to need a cool down because NASDAQ hit a resistance. There's nothing too wrong with that, right? But hey, if you disagree with anything, please throw it in the comments. I'm not here to pretend to be perfect. Otherwise, I appreciate your time and more videos are coming.